Hello and welcome to the 113th show of Get Out of Rap TV. I was just thinking when I was watching that video, I need to do a new video because I've painted the walls since then. Hugo's still the same. Welcome to the show. It's a very special one today. An hour on, which may suit some people. I know one of our top guests, Danny Wareham, is at some expo about HR. I did ask him if he could take over the big screen and just put it on there, but I don't think he's going to play ball, which is very disappointing. Since he's written his excellent book, he's changed. He's changed. No, he hasn't. Okay, so welcome to the show. Like I say, a very, very special one today. Please do jump in the comments and say hello. I always do get a little bit concerned that there's been a breakage between no way. Look at that. Say his name and he will appear. Danny Wareham. I made it. Only for a bit, but made it. Wow. What a trooper. And there was me. I was kind of dissing you a little bit. Well, I wasn't really. You are a superstar, living legend, and author of Constellation, which is everywhere. It's rightly so as well. Great book, real new take on leadership, which is brilliant. So thank you for being here and putting me at ease that the comments are working. So let's kick off, before we get to the main reason of today, let's kick off with a question to get us all to know each other a little bit. What's one thing you could talk about for hours without getting bored? And Harvey is here. Hello, everyone. We are all good to be here. Yes, it's great. Good to see you, Harvey. Loving the hat, of course. Every breath you take, every move you make, I'll be watching you. Is that what you could talk about for hours, Danny? The Police. Great band. They've had a bit of a dispute recently, haven't they? Or not recently, but over the years. So what's one thing you could talk about for hours without getting bored? Danny, would yours be Constellation, the book written by you? Mine probably would. I've got a couple when I was thinking of this question. One would be Hugo. I can talk about him for hours and hours and hours and hours. The other probably would be football, albeit that's guaranteed to make me depressed at the moment. The other would probably be our industry. My mates in my football team, when a new player joins, will warn the new player, don't ask him what he does. Danny says personality, leadership, pseudoscience in workplaces, and culture, of course. And it's always very interesting when you are talking about this. Now, my guests, I know, will probably have some great answers here, but they are in the green room. They had loads of riders as well, like blue M&Ms, lilies. Tracy, hi, everyone. I could talk about the musician Prince and art. Oh, I've got a funny story about Prince, Tracy. When I was 16 and 17, I worked at Wembley Stadium as a steward, mainly for the football, but we also did music events, and Prince was appearing at Wembley, and you had to be there like 3 or 4 hours before anything started. So me and my mate Adam were down on the pitch, setting up barriers. And we saw Prince come on to do a sound check. So we stopped what we were doing and just wandered. And by this point, because we were the ones putting the barriers up, there were no barriers to the stage. So we just walked right up to the stage, and we were just like leaning on it, watching him. And he came over and said, "How was that? Was I good?" We were like, "Are you talking to us?" And he was like, "Yeah." We said, "Yeah, not bad." So that was my little claim to fame with Prince. Great artist, of course. Right, let me catch up. The amazing Nicola Callan, who you will see very shortly, training and coaching in contact centers, of course, and the shenanigans my dog gets up to. as well as well, maybe we could have a whole show about dog shenanigans. I'm tempting fate here, but Hugo hasn't pulled me over for a week, which is great, especially with training for the marathon. He's going to injure me. Danny says Star Wars. Oh, I didn't know that about you, Danny. All the years I've known you, I love Star Wars. Basketball, discussing the ridiculousness of extra mature cheddar being cheaper than mature cheddar. Harvey says, family, James Bond, Back to the Future, and how terrible I am at golf. Well, we could share a story or two about that. Lewis is here, Lewis Murphy. Do check out Wednesday Wisdom that Lewis does. Great little videos on LinkedIn. Good morning. Hope you're well, Martin. It's a running theme at work that I use too many football analogies and managed to bring football up somehow. Yeah, I got some feedback about that when I was a manager, actually, that I would say, listen, it's not that our formation is a problem. It's just about, I would use football analogies all the time. And someone said, we don't understand football, so we have no idea what you're talking about. Can you use something else? And it was a really good question because it made me think about music. Everyone understands being in a band and how you've different skills, but you all have to work together. And then someone else suggested cooking because you've got ingredients, you've got a prep, you can experiment. It didn't necessarily stop me talking about football all the time, but it was a good one. Tracy, Newton. Oh my God, that's brilliant. Yeah, I know. It was, it made up for all the times that people threw stuff at us. I had to hide in the toilets once when there was a massive fight that broke out. So it did make up for things like that. But yeah, really great experience. At the end of the day, you need to turn those analogies down. Got there in the end. Okay, thank you for these. These are brilliant. But let's get to let's use our brains, because I always rely on you guys to come up with something brilliant. Here is a question that it will be very helpful to hear your answers. Our industry is probably going through a period of change like we've never known before. The speed of change, the speed of perceived change as well. You can't, every day there's some news story or an email about how our industry is going to massively change, predominantly driven by AI, I guess. But, we are going through change. So within that, naturally, I'm going to think it's an analogy of two halves. Thanks, Danny. You do help me. Within all of that, and of course I'm going to say this with the team leader community, but I'm really interested in your thoughts on what skill or skills do you think team leaders need right now? What are the fundamentals for them that you think they need to better support their team members and therefore service customers and deliver projects and deliver great customer experience? Naturally, and I think most of us would agree, they're the most important kind of layer within a contact center. They can turn strategy into reality. Every single KPI within our contact center flows through them or is influenced by them. So what skills do you think team leaders need right now? And I should have said maybe what skills do you think they need going forward during this period of change? I don't want to generalize, but you would say that these are people that, whilst they might be experienced, oh, yay, Sarah Hunt is here. Love the Boost team. Well, hang around then, Sarah. Hang around. It's great to see you, mate. Me and Sarah are like twins in the way our brains work. We have bursts of conversations and say, right, let's meet up, and then we don't, and then we go back to doing it. So we really must get together, Sarah. So what skills do you think team leaders need right now? These, like I was saying, these are predominantly first level leaders. There's obviously experienced leaders, but for many, this will be the first time in leadership. And whilst we have got so much better at preparing them, it is still quite a step that they take. Okay, Danny is kicking us off. Skill, critical thinking. With so much stuff out there that may or may not be useful, AI hallucinations, fake news, and pseudoscience models. I'm looking at you, Disc. Taken as fact, being able to hold opposing thoughts and research, analyze them critically and accurately is a core skill for leaders. So Danny is kicking us off there with critical thinking. And that's a really good one, actually. I'm going to take a note of that because I don't think I've talked about that enough within the team leader community. But what are some of the skills? And when answering this, I wonder, do you think, are we fooled into thinking that AI is going to be able to pick up lots and lots of stuff for them, or does it mean that the focus needs to be more on the human element and the relationship side of leadership, or is it still the tried and tested? They've got to be good with time management. They've got to be able to drive performance. They've got to be good coaches. They've got to be able to have an attention to detail if they're doing quality monitoring. What do you think the skills are that team leaders need right now? Now, I know, Sarah, you must have a view on this, and Tracy, of course. Now, Tracy, I know you drag Rowan with you sometimes to watch this show. Is he with you today? Are you going to let him comment, or do all comments come through you, which is probably the right way to do it? Okay, Lewis, thank you, my friend. Lewis Murphy says empathy, not just understanding customer challenges, etc., but empathy for agents who are having to adapt to new ways of working and may have concerns about their role, their own ability, their career progression with the growth and development of AI. Really good point. Really good point. And that then leads itself into what was it? Sorry, I lost your comment there for a second. I've got it back. I've got it back. And Danny, don't know what this means. Villa versus Newcastle was an awful game for refs. They've become reliant on VAR, the tool. Without it, in that game, they were poor. How many tools are we over reliant on in our organization? Reporting, dashboards, coaching apps that, when unavailable, make us officiate poorly. Great football analogy. Great one. Because very, very true. It did lead to a debate, didn't it, about has an over reliance on technology led to a drop in standards of referees? And you could apply that here because it's a really good one to think about. Technically speaking, and I've been to contact centers where they don't have much technology, but they are excellent. You know, they're still very much in a kind of Excel world, but they are excellent. Rowan's not with you. Oh dear. Well, I'm not saying that in terms of just, oh, we've just left with you, Tracy. Right then, thank you for these. Now it is time for something, the biggest announcement of the year, certainly in my world, and maybe even the world entirely. Now, Danny, I'm glad you're with us still, because I know how much you love a VT. So set your faces to stun. Star Trek, not Star Wars, that one, Danny. Set face to stun and get ready for a new VT. Here we go. I am very pleased to welcome Nicola, Callan, and M. Simmons from Boost. Hello.
Woo-hoo! Hello. I love that little VT. That's so cool.
It took me hours and hours of hard work, but it's well worth it. Now, you are not just here because we love to have a chat. You are here for something that is a big announcement. Danny loves a VT. which is great. I'm very, very pleased to say the team leader community, being 3 years old, have never been in partnership with anyone. But I'm very pleased to say that Boost is now the team leader community's in-person training partner. Woo! So thank you, Nicola and Em, for joining. Let's start with why now and why we've chosen to do this. Like I say, when the community was set up, I've never purported it to be or wanted it to be the answer to a contact center's L&D program, or it was something to support, to complement a home for team leaders to come to, share challenges, share best practice, and help them with all of the challenges that we've all faced and will continue to face, to know that they're not alone, and through a sense of community grow together. Of course, in the 3 years of doing that, you find out that people want something face to face. They want something substantial. They want to go on programs that lead to them really feeling and gaining skills that are deep and embedded. And that is not something that they can get through an online community. Hence, working with you guys, and as Sarah Hunt says, what a partnership. I've known you for years. I think it's perfect for us because we have the same values, and I know that can be a bit of a glib comment sometimes. In this case, it's absolutely not. Just getting to speak to you either at events or seeing your work, and I think that's really important. I know so many companies. I don't know if I can name them. I'm going to be careful that I don't. But I know that they have massively seen the benefits, and we've shared a late night or two after expos and things like that, putting the contact center world to rights. So I'm very excited about you becoming the team leader community's in-person training partner. And I hope you feel the same way, Nicola.
Oh, we do, Martin. Thank you so much. Yeah. Again, very similar. You know, we've been in each other's circles for a number of years now, and kind of watched each other and kind of seen what you've been developing, and you've kind of seen what we've been developing. But you know, this thing, like, this industry is huge, but it's also tiny, and there are some really, really good people out there doing really, really good things for the wonderful world of customer contact. And when there became the opportunity, when you spoke to us about this, it was kind of that phrase, that sort of no-brainer phrase, because we know that together we are on the same trajectory in terms of particularly recognising contact centres as a place for careers and not that stopgap job straight after university. There is so much that can be learned from that contact centre environment, from being a team leader, from being a QA, from being a frontline advisor, and the work that you do through Get Out of Wrap and the team leader community just speaks so nicely to what we're trying to do to empower people, enable people, and give them the skills and the confidence to be able to do great things in this wonderful world that is.
Oh, and thank you very much. And I think I don't mind admitting that, you know, whether it's in leadership or in what I'm doing now with the team leader community, the work that you guys do. And before we went live, Em, you were telling me about some of the things that you've been doing recently, that some of the great talks and events and training sessions. I recognized with what people want once they get comfortable in the community is they want to keep going, and they want to do something face to face, and they want to do something that is led by experts and professionals, but is still based in reality, is still realistic, and is delivered by people that get it, and the attendees of your training get you, because you're not talking in theoretical, conceptual type stuff. You're talking in some of the things that they can do practically from day one. And you know, Em, if you think about your background, as well. You know, it's rooted in contact centers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. From the age of 17 through to, I'll not say how old now. But yeah, and we were having a chat before the start of things as to how that journey has kind of panned out, and the fact that I'm such an advocate for the industry, and hugely for the team leader population and the frontline advisors, quite specifically in that industry, and just how you can grow from a frontline advisor role into many other different roles, and how it offers so many different avenues and so many skills, and constantly thinking about battling that outlook that is still out there in the world about contact centers or call centers just being really like receptionist sort of lines, and actually there's so much more to it. And it just shapes you in lots of different ways, and ways that you don't even think often. So yeah, big old fan of it all, definitely.
Well, let's talk about what it's actually going to mean. What it's going to mean for the people within the team leader community. And we are up to, I have my whiteboard. You can't work in our industry without a whiteboard. But we have 726 members. We have another 43 joining next week. What it means for the members of the community is you guys are going to join, and you will be able to share thought-provoking content and support within the community. But critically, for those members, and this is born out of a live, a live example of this where, honestly, I spoke to someone who was going to wanted to join the community, and their needed something more than the community for where they're at and what they want to achieve. And it's going to give people the opportunity to engage with you and explore what's possible outside of the community, but still very much in line with what we are trying to achieve, which is to help people lead better, and for them to enjoy it and understand that it's a great profession, and it doesn't need to be one where they're firefighting, on the verge of burnout. So it's going to enable people within the community and the companies within the community to contact you, and we will facilitate that that introduction if it's needed, and vice versa. You'll be in the community sharing some of your great knowledge and expertise.
Yeah, and we can't wait. So yeah, we're really looking forward. I think it's later this week that we're actually going to be diving into the community itself, and we're really looking forward to being able to do that. And it's also about sharing things like masterclasses and top tips and some of our resources, and just little bite-sized things that are going to be helpful for people, hopefully, on a daily, weekly basis. Something they can just pick up and they can just work with straight away. And as you said before, we have all of our programs that we deliver, but we also have all the experiences and all the learning that we've taken from the different organizations that we work with. And that's across different industries, it's across different types of contact center, it's working with in-person contact centers, remote, hybrid, all of those things as well. But just on the in-person side of things in particular, we specialize in in-person learning, and it kind of links back to some of the things that Danny and Lewis were talking about earlier, in that we really want to maintain that human-to-human connection. So important as we go, as you were saying, Martin, into this era that is probably the biggest change that we've seen within customer contact. And how do we actually make sure that the people who are working in those contact centres are being supported in the very best way to be able to do that role? So very much all about the in-person stuff, and actually being there and supporting them shoulder to shoulder in the roles that they're doing within their organisations.
I love that. And just to reassure you, Danny, if you join now as a member, you can still see all the existing previous content, advice, dad jokes and videos, right? That seems like a no-brainer.
We get the dad jokes. Do we get the dad jokes?
Well,
amazing.
Danny is a big part of the community, so of course there's dad jokes. There's something in there from Danny pretty much every day that always makes everyone smile. But yes, you will get to see that. And the community, the only change for the community is a massively positive one, that we add your your input, your skills, your presence, and your experience. And, you know, from my point of view, people have said, oh, can you come and do some training? And I think you have to be able to recognize when there are people that you know that are absolute experts at it. And I would never want to show up and not be able to give people what they need. So I thought I want to work with people I like. I want to work with people who just get it and have the, like I say, have the same values. So this was definitely a no-brainer. Now, oh, and of course you mentioned it. There's going to be you're going to do a masterclass in March, which I'm really looking forward to. We will share that on LinkedIn for you, any of you that want to get into the community, get your team leaders into the community. But really looking forward to that. But I couldn't have you both here without asking you. You know, I talked about the skill. I asked the question about what are the skills that you think team leaders are needing, but what are the hot topics that you are seeing with your customers at the moment?
Yeah, so I just came directly before this one. I came off a call where we were talking about frontline advisor training, but also very much talking about coaching skills as well. So that one is very, very topical at the moment. But I'll just rewind as to why that is. And a few of you have picked up on it already in the comments today. So there's a lot of talk of the future of the contact centre, isn't there? There's a lot of talk right now about kind of what the future of the contact centre looks like. And with the introduction of AI, the complexity, we've heard all this before, the complexity of the cases that people are going to be dealing with from a frontline perspective, and that the AI will take away some of the more transactional challenges that might otherwise be presented. Now, we talk and hear a lot about the impact of frontline advisors, and it's absolutely right that we do talk about that and think about that. And the difference for these people, not least, is the fact that they are going to potentially struggle with resilience, because they're not going to have the respite calls or the respite contacts that they used to have previously, which might be a change of address or a change of name or something, or producing a bill.
My favourite type of calls.
We're dealing with these really complex things all the time. But when we extrapolate that, and then you can start to get into conversations around, well, actually, if frontline advisors are dealing with more complex contact scenarios, are they therefore required to be paid more? So is there then an uplift in salary for a contact centre advisor? And then you start to extrapolate that out, and you start to look then at the team leader role. And I feel that the team leader role isn't getting quite as much publicity in all of these conversations than the frontline advisor is. And when we think about the team leader role, and again, I think it was Lewis that called it out earlier, this empathy for agents, the team leader role is going to become more of a coach. It's going to become more of a mentor and a support to those frontline advisors. It's also going to be one that has to get used to managing multiple resources. So the team leader up until now has to manage people. The team leader going forward will be managing various bots, automation, AI, various things, because they'll need to know which levers to pull and when. When do we actually switch on the generative AI for various conversations that we're going to be having through these chat channels? When do we switch on the auto wrap so that we can get our colleagues out of calls more quickly to be able to serve the customers who are waiting for us? When do we actually defer all calls or redirect all calls with this contact type to this particular channel? And when do we focus on telephony or email for these other things? So they're going to have, I think you used the phrase earlier, they turn strategy into reality. They're absolutely going to have to do that. They're going to have to be thinking about what do I do next in service of my customer? And where perhaps some team leaders in the past, certainly the ones that we've been dealing with through our Skills Boost program, have very much seen themselves as being part of the team that they lead, as opposed to a team of team leaders. They're also very much thinking of their team as people and not always thinking of the end customer. So the propensity to be able to pull different levers in service of the customer whilst being that empathic support for agents is going to be the big difference. And to do that, they're going to need critical thinking, which Danny mentioned earlier. It reminded me, Danny, of the work that Matthew Taylor did. And I think it was like 2017, 2018, when he did the Good Work review through the government. and predicted what the future skills would be in the workforce in the next 10 years. Well, we're nearly 10 years up from that now. And critical thinking, critical judgment, and the ability to have a future, not necessarily a skill, but a future focus, were all really, really strong in there. So developing those skills are really important. But to get to that, they also, team leaders need to have the ability to have really difficult conversations sometimes with people, to be supportive, and to give feedback as they need to do so well in order to improve the performance of those advisors.
It's fascinating, isn't it? When you think, just listening to you talk then, you can't help but think a couple of points you made or hit me straight away. One, team leaders, part of the reason for even doing the community in the first place was this is like this forgotten layer within certainly external comms about our industry. Everyone's focused on what does it mean for agents. Everyone's focused on customer. Everyone's focused on the CX leaders, the senior leaders, and then the team leaders that exist somewhere in the middle are going to go through as much, if not more, change for all the reasons that you've just said, as any of those other groups, and have more influence over whether these changes are successful or not. And then the other thing that it made me think is that complexity increase that we are saying agents are going to be left with what you've just verbalized, is that plus more for team leaders. You know, they are already, you know, some of the questions that come up in the community time and time again are the age-old ones about, I don't know how to have a difficult conversation. I don't know. I could be better at managing poor behavior. I want to build a better relationship. And then there's a whole range of coaching ones. So the kind of with your team interactions, that group of questions, I think, has been there since I was a team leader and will stay. The other one really, though, is they're not given clear direction about what their priorities are. And everything is priority number one. Now, with what you've just said, very succinctly summing up how they're going to have to become these business coordinators, channel coordinators, leaders of when to use the tech and where, and this more kind of meeting customers with our technology, that kind of quarterback role is another thing for them to think about, that they are not getting exposed to or trained on right now. And it's just another reason why working with you guys is going to be so important, because we need to start talking more about how we're upskilling team leaders for the future, and not leaving them behind in that conversation. And I know you are working on some areas as well that are equally very much hot topics at the moment. What are some of the things that you're seeing?
Yeah, well, just before I say that, Martin, I couldn't put comments in earlier. So just for anybody who would like to know what I could talk about for hours, it would be garden birds. Hazard a guess.
You were talking about birds before we went live.
Yeah, garden birds, also my doggy, of course. And then skills I had mentioned a lot, that's come up as well. So resilience, empathy. I'd also put in the ability to be lots more proactive and lots less reactive. And that kind of nicely ties into what's being said on the comments there, and Nick, what you've been saying there about the evolving role there. But yeah, I suppose hot topic for me at the moment is definitely, vulnerable customers. And we do a program now of customers in vulnerable circumstances, and it's a hot topic for lots of different reasons. If you look at the industry, you can potentially have organizations that fall into the regulated side or the non-regulated side. And on a regulated basis, you've got people who are going to be hit with fines if they're not doing what they need to be doing to support these customers in the best possible ways. Non-regulated, slightly different. But there is a need for people to be building their resilience, their confidence, their curiosity with customers. When Nick was talking about the fact that there's a future focus for team leaders, this proactive piece that's kind of coming through, they are going to be focused a lot on the tech and the navigation of that sort of stuff. There's a major importance for the front end of all the core skills to be absolutely nailed on to help build that even more. So we're looking at how to really bolster conversation with people when they're in situations where they potentially need it the most. And as we've talked about, the fact that simplicity will be taken away and is being taken away already. My favorite calls of, can I just check my savings balance, please? And I'd love to change an address. Hallelujah. It isn't going to be there anymore, and it's not there, and people are going to be left with the risk of burning out. So the complexity that's left, for all it's producing better job satisfaction. I know there was a health organisation at last year's Expo who said about how they're seeing real positive increases in their engagement scores for those reasons, for the fact that frontline advisors are becoming real problem solvers. They're enjoying the role a lot more. There is a need to really bolster the skills in this area. And it takes me back to when I was a team leader, because as a team leader, I'd often be told from my leaders that if my team had a problem about a customer in a vulnerable circumstance, a vulnerable customer, however you refer to them as, then they just need to come to you. But ultimately, I didn't always know what to do. That's all well and good. And I am flexible enough as a team leader to go, okay, let's sit down and have a chat. But am I still thinking, do I really know what to do? Do I really know what to say? Are we really doing the right thing at the right time? So this program that we do and this piece around customers in vulnerable circumstances is really something for all, not just frontline, but the team leaders as well. And at the moment, I'm working with a wonderful organisation where we've got the trainers involved, the team leaders involved, the frontline involved, and potentially even more roles to help shape that and to build initiative and proactivity and focus and resilience and curiosity and confidence and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, a huge hot topic at the moment is that vulnerability piece.
It's been fascinating to see. We were on the phones, and unless it was blindingly obvious, you wouldn't necessarily even use the language of this customer's vulnerable, and therefore I need to either engage a different process, approach, handle it different. It was, you were totally reliant on who you were as a person and how you might interact with someone in those circumstances in your real life. It's been fascinating to see how awareness of vulnerability, not just in our industry, but in society, has evolved. But it's always been a question in my mind, as that has evolved, has our ability to not just cope with that, but to thrive in that environment, has that matched that kind of increase in awareness? And I think that there's plenty of contact centers that have been a little bit left behind when it comes to how we upskilling and preparing people for what this may look like. Because now vulnerability, I guess, well, you tell me, is the first place that you start with people. And what is their current understanding of what vulnerability is? Is that where you normally start?
Yeah. So we, during the program, it's usually done over a 3-day sort of period. So the first thing that we'll ever talk about is that general understanding of what it is, how it's, impacted for them, what it feels like in their role. Just a huge deep dive, huge exploration of the whole concept of it all, really. Because nailing down one particular definition for it isn't something that's quite easy for people. And I think it's a big old world, and allowing people to explore a lot of that works really, really well. And it's funny you said about society there as well, Martin, right? So the programs that we do, they can be quite eye-opening for people, where they're having these big light bulb moments, these real revelations of what's going on. And we did a piece last week on biases and things like that. And a learner actually said, I think we have a real problem in society. And it expands much bigger than just the session. It's bigger and wider. It's nationwide, it's worldwide. And that's exactly what we set about to do, is to build that bigger thinking. We want people to go home and actually use everything that they're doing with their friends and their family and just see it bigger all the time. And yeah, it was brilliant to see that come through last week. So just when you said the word society there, I thought I'd link the two there.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
I think there's something there, Martin, as well. So Em's talks brilliantly about customers in vulnerable circumstances. And when you think about that vulnerability, no matter for the audience who are listening to this either live or later on, chances are that you work in organisations that is already having a conversation around vulnerable customers to some extent, whether it's regulated or not. And when you think about that vulnerability, whether it's short-term, long-term, temporary, permanent, whatever, they're conversations that you can generally have in the workplace. You might not necessarily know all the answers, but you can generally have those conversations. But what if we changed it from customers in vulnerable circumstances to colleagues in vulnerable circumstances? Because actually all the change that's going on at the moment brings about a vulnerability. And if we can apply some of the learning and some of the understanding that we have around vulnerability for customers as team leaders and as contact centre managers, can we actually apply some of that learning to our colleagues, to our team members who are going to be feeling uncertain, they're going to be feeling fragile, they're going to be facing something new. The team leaders are expected to be role models through all of this, yet don't know the answers themselves, as Em alluded to earlier in some cases. How can we transfer that learning? Because that makes for a very interesting conversation within our teams.
Oh, 100%. I can remember, again, before it was really understood, because I'm talking way back, understood as vulnerability. I was working as a team leader for a bank's debt recovery collection center, and we had certain tools that we could work with customers on: income and expenditure, pro rata payments, interest freeze, that kind of thing. And that's what we were trained on. And one of my team came to speak to me, and I was young then, he was a lot older, and said, "I'm finding this a bit of a struggle. Can you help me by taking me through what we do with customers?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Financially, we're really struggling at home." And you just think, it kind of blew my mind as a young leader that one of my team was on the phones all day long helping customers, and he was in the same situation. And I was like, of course, why didn't you say something? Do you know what I mean? My heart went out to him, because I thought, this is kind of like a nightmare for him. This is a constant reminder of a situation that's causing him stress outside of work. So, now with our understanding, you're dead right. Are we thinking about vulnerable colleagues as much as we're thinking about vulnerable customers, and how do we address that? Yeah,
it's a big thing. When we talk about difficult customers, we hate that phrase. We'll put it in vertical, difficult customers. Then there's different types of difficulty. So I've got difficulty in dealing with customers because I don't have the skill set to be able to do that. I've got customers in difficult circumstances that's triggering me. So I've got a customer who's telling me about a bereavement or a cancer diagnosis or a debt issue, and that's triggering something inside of me. I've got difficulty in letting difficult customers go. So we always talk about having a backpack, and that for every difficult call we get, we put another rock in the backpack. And before we know it, we can't even stand up from our desks to walk away anymore, because we're so weighed down by all the calls and all the contacts that we've taken, rather than letting the customer go away with their own rock, albeit their rock is now a little lighter because we've done something to be able to support them. So all these different complexities of difficulty that we talk about, both in the context of vulnerable customers and also otherwise. But again, think about the team leaders, thinking about what is it that makes, you talked about difficult conversations earlier, what is it that makes that conversation difficult? Is it because I don't have the skill to be able to do that, or the confidence or the capability? Is it because I'm actually finding things really difficult myself right now, and I have to have a conversation with my leader about that? There's so many parallels, and it's a wonderful world to dive into, because it shows that we do have the skills within us to be able to do this, and we have the knowledge within us. We just need to untap it and have a slightly different conversation.
Well, and we are just at the tip of the iceberg for some of the things that we're going to be doing and working on together. But I'm really happy that the very first kind of in-person partnership, taking the online team leader community into reality, into face to face with a trusted partner. I'm very pleased it's you guys and Boost. So this is part of something wonderful.
Absolutely. Thank you very, very much. We feel the same.
And thank you for coming on and adding so much to Get Out of Rap. How can people find, obviously people in the community, team leader community, will be able to get direct access to you guys now, but for everyone else, how can they find out about Boost and the different programs and things that you do?
So the best way to find us is on LinkedIn. So if you look for Boost Training and Coaching and Contact Centres, you can see the logo just above Martin's head, hopefully, on the screen now. So that's what you're looking out for, or something similar to that. There we go, yay! On LinkedIn. Please give us a follow. We just celebrated reaching 1,000 followers just a few weeks ago, which is a big deal because we don't, people can pay for these sorts of things. We don't do that. We just want our learners and the people that are engaged within our community to follow us. So please do that. We post regularly, and you'll get some top tips and insights, as well as various other bits and pieces as well. And then on our website as well, so boosthr.co.uk. So for anyone who doesn't know us from old, we did do a lot of HR work as well as training and coaching. We don't do the HR anymore, but the name stuck, and I just can't change it because all of the Boost domains are taken. So it's boosthr.co.uk, and you'll find all the details on there. But best thing of all is just to contact us. So connect with us on LinkedIn, reach out to Em or myself or Rachel on the team, and we will happily engage in conversation and talk to you as long as you wish for us to go back to the initial icebreaker question on all things training and coaching in contact centres, and dogs, preferably spaniels, preferably brown ones.
I agree with everything you were saying then, up until the end, because it's black Labradors all the way.
Isolating most of the audience.
specifically ones that are slightly unhinged.
Yeah, well, I did have one of those as well, so I can relate to that too.
But Nicola, thank you so much for coming in. And as Tracy says, brilliant session. Somebody else, very exciting. So yeah, very exciting. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for all your comments. And I'll see you on the next Get Out of Rap TV. And Nicola and Emma, see you in the team leader community.
Yay!
Thank you.